Here we are. We are ready for the next piece in our study in the life of Christ. We're going to pick up in Luke 14, verse 7. Just to kind of refresh your memory, Jesus in Luke 13 and 14 has been kind of dealing with similar sort of themes. 13 was a lot about being watchful, being prepared, making sure that that you were really always thinking and living and behaving the way that a follower should, because you don't know when the time is going to come. So be ready. Make the decisions you need to make. There's not always going to be, another day, another week, another month to come around to that decision. In 14, it was about healing on the Sabbath. There are a couple different things there that Jesus was in trouble for, and he pointed out sort of the hypocrisy and the idiocy of the strict adherence to that rule. Can't do anything on the Sabbath. Well, what if you can do good for somebody? What if you need to rescue somebody? What if somebody needs your help? Well, sorry, it's the Sabbath. I can't help you. If you would come in here bleeding to death tomorrow, I could do something, but today, I'm sorry, I'm not. So he is at a meal at a Pharisee's home when they have some of those conversations, and that's where we're going to pick up in verse 7. When he noticed how the guests picked the places of honor at the table, he told them this parable. When someone invites you to a wedding feast, do not take the place of honor, for a person more distinguished than you may have been invited. If so, the host who invited both of you will come and say to you, give this person your seat. Then, humiliated, you will have to take the least important place. But when you are invited, take the lowest place, so that when your host comes, he will say to you, friend, move up to a better place. And then you will be honored in the presence of all the other guests. For all those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. Then Jesus said to his host, when you give a luncheon or dinner, do not invite your friends, your brothers or sisters, your relatives, or your rich neighbors. If you do, they may invite you back, and so you will be repaid. But when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed. Although they cannot repay you, you will be repaid at the resurrection of the righteous. This meal that Jesus has been invited to is not just about food. Sometimes you know that when you get invited to a meal, it really is just about the food. Like there's going to be barbecue, somebody is grilling out. They've fixed some of their most favorite dishes that everybody loves. It really is just about the food. This particular meal is not, there is going to be food there, but it is more about status and politics. This is more like a Washington, D.C. kind of gathering. People come in, everybody's jockeying for position. They want to be close to the senator. They want to be close to the president. They want to be close to whoever. And so there's all this, negotiating and passing on the right and all this kind of stuff to try to get to just the right spot. In Jesus's time, the closer you were to the head of the table where the seat was, the host was, the more important you were. And I suppose that's true as well. If the president invites you to come to dinner with all the senators and representatives from your district, you're probably not going to be sitting right beside the president. You'll probably be at the far end and have to lean over to see what's going on. It's a lot the same here at this meal. Jesus, who doesn't care about all that, he actually may be the one who is sitting beside the host as sort of the guest of honor. But he notices that everybody else who comes in is trying to take the very best seats. And so he gives a warning to the group, which is not like new information. He really is giving some wisdom that sounds a lot like the book of Proverbs. There's actually one, a proverb in chapter 25, verses 6 and 7, that deals with the same idea. There, Solomon's wisdom is, do not exalt yourself in the king's presence, and do not claim a place among his great men. It is better for him to say to you, come up here, than for him to humiliate you before his nobles. Okay, that sounds very much like the same idea. Don't go for the most important place. Instead, Jesus says, choose the faraway spot. Choose the humbler position. Not just because humility is a virtue. It is a good thing. But it's also a smarter move and a lot safer. None of us would want to be humbled like that. Like, what do you think you're doing in this chair? No. You're over there. You're at the kids' table tonight. I'm really sorry about that. You don't get to edit the big people table. You just if you start at the bottom, you can't be humiliated. There's no place lower to go. But you might be encouraged. Why don't you just come up here? I got a spot just right here for you. I was hoping you would show up. Come sit beside me. Okay, so it's smarter, it's safer, but the main point is, don't be so concerned about how other people see you. Don't worry about that. Just stay humble, enjoy the meal, enjoy the company. If you get to sit next to the host, great. If you are at the other end of the table, okay. You're still eating the same meal. You still get to see the host. You've still been invited. You're still a welcome guest. So just relax. And then kind of along those same lines, Jesus gives some instruction about future banquets like this, because he can tell by looking around the room that it is a mutual admiration society there for dinner. Everybody's looking at each other, thinking about how important they are and how successful they are and how they rank next to one another. Jesus says, don't invite people to a meal with the expectation that they're going to return the favor. Come over to my house. We're having this great big meal. All the most important people will be there. We'd love for you to come. But when would we expect our invitation for your big banquet? Like, I sort of have the idea that it's this sort of celebrity elite. They all have these big, beautiful homes and, amazing personal chefs, and each one is trying to outdo the other. And I know that doesn't really happen very much in real life, where people try to do that. But the pattern seems to be, I'll scratch your back, but I am also expecting you to scratch mine at some point in the future. So Jesus says, don't give into that. Don't be a part of that stupid circle where you're just inviting all the same people to eat these big important meals with each other. Instead, Do something that is gracious for those who don't ever receive grace. Invite people that you know very well cannot invite you to come to their home because they either don't have a home or it's not big enough or they don't have enough money to feed a big banquet like this. Don't worry about being seen in the presence of all these dignitaries. Be the champion of the little guy. worry more about caring for the least of these. This passage kind of goes right along with what Jesus teaches in Matthew 25 about ministry to the least of these, the hungry, the thirsty, the cold, the sick, the imprisoned. It's the very same idea. Take care of those who cannot take care of themselves. Do something gracious. And in Matthew 25, the point is that those who serve folks like that will be counted as righteous. They'll receive their inheritance from their Father. They may not get the acclaim and the 5-star reviews and the front page of the society page articles written about them, but they will have a place in heaven because they've been gracious to other people. What do you think?
Yeah, it does me too.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
How often do we do it?
I agree with the advice is certainly very logical. It's not supposed to be embarrassed, but it's I think focusing on the motivations of why you do something. And don't expect to gain any unperishable rewards if you're doing something for what you can get out of it. And the thought at the end there, you'll be paid at the resurrection and recognized for what you've done. It's just reinforcement of that whole philosophy of Christ that don't seek to gain rewards here on earth, but do things with enduring time.
Stop thinking about treasures here. Lay up treasures in heaven by serving those who really do need to be served. Maybe from the other side of the coin, you and your spouse have said, why are we even going to this thing? Neither of us really want to go to this dinner, banquet, dance, whatever. We don't really want to go, but we have to go. Why do we have to go? Because they've invited us. And, if we want them to do, then we have to. I think we fall into it sometimes. I don't really want to go to this meal, but their feelings will be hurt if we don't go. And so even though we have a house full of food and we haven't been here to eat any of it, and we're going to throw out half of it from the refrigerator anyway. Yeah. So I would love especially to see the people who are insistent on throwing great big fabulous parties for the elite and the celebrated people to just do a dinner for the community, rather than inviting everybody to go to Park City for a fabulous $1,000 a plate meal. Why not spend that same amount of money to feed the people in the city, on the streets, wherever. Well, let's roll on then. Chapter 14, verse 15. When one of those at the table with him heard this, he said to Jesus, "Blessed is the one who will eat at the feast in the kingdom of God." That seems like kind of a safe thing to say. It seems right. If the goal is to eat at the feast in the kingdom of God and you're there with someone who's all about the kingdom, like, yeah, I'm going to say this. This sounds really good. And Jesus replied, "A certain man was preparing a great banquet and invited many guests. At the time of the banquet, he sent a servant to tell those who had been invited, 'Come, everything's now ready.' But they all alike began to make excuses. The first said, 'I have just bought a field and I must go and see it. Please excuse me.' Another said, 'I just bought 5 yoke of oxen and I'm on my way to try them out. Please excuse me.' Still another said, 'I just got married, so I can't come.' The servant came back and reported this to the master. Then the owner of the house became angry and ordered his servant, 'Go out quickly into the streets and alleys of the town and bring in the poor, the crippled, the blind, and the lame.' 'Sir,' the servant said, 'what you have ordered has been done, but there is still room.' Then the master told the servant, 'Go out to the roads and country lanes and compel them to come in so that my house will be full. I tell you, not one of those who are invited will get a taste of my banquet.'" Okay, it seems like there's still some of this watch and be ready, be prepared theme going along with this story as well. Jesus begins to tell this story about those who are invited to the big feast in the kingdom. Many people have received the invitation. They've marked a date on their calendar. They know when it's coming. But for some reason, when everything is ready to go, they make excuses. It's interesting that there in verse 18, they all alike. What that means is it's pretty much at the same time or all at once. So the announcement's made, it's wedding time, and now the guests all at the same time start making these feeble excuses. And they are pretty feeble. What's the excuse of the first guy?
Piece of land.
I bought some property and I need to go see it. Now, there are not very many people I know who would buy a piece of property sight unseen. It is possible that when I moved to Utah, I did that because I was desperate. There were not a lot of options. And so when something came my price range, I kind of had to buy it, even though I'd only seen a picture on a fax machine copy. I will tell you from my experience, that's a horrible thing. You should never do that. You just wouldn't buy a field. A smart farmer is not going to buy a field without having an idea of what it looks like first. The second excuse is kind of like that. I just bought how much? 5 yoke of oxen, so 10. That's a pretty big chunk of change right there. That's like buying a great big new, $800,000 tractor. And I need to go check it out. Well, again, that would be a major expense, and that's not something that you would have done without doing some research first. You've checked them out, you've looked at their hooves, you've seen their vaccination records, you know what you bought. There's no idea like, well, no, I saw them on KSL, I just thought I'd just buy them. These are lame, materialistic excuses. These these people, these invited guests have allowed stuff to get in the way of what was supposed to be the most important thing. And we might think, well, we can give that married guy a little grace because maybe she's not invited. Maybe they're still on their honeymoon. There are some rules in the Old Testament about if you got married, you couldn't be compelled to go off to war, at least for a year. So you think, well, that one seems okay. But again, this banquet has been on the calendar. The invitations went out very early. Save this date. When everything is ready, we'll let you know. And he went ahead and ignored that. He could have made arrangements during that honeymoon period to go and do this thing. Sort of the underlying theme of all of these excuses is that the individuals have excluded themselves. Who's to blame if they don't get to go into the banquet? They are. It's not the master's fault. It's not the father of the bride's fault. This is the fault of the guests. They chose to make something else more important than this incredible event. And so the master of the house is ticked. He invited all these people to come. We want you to come to this celebration. Save the date. Here's what you should wear. We're buying food based on your response that you've said that you will attend. And so when they say, well, actually something better came along. It is a personal affront to him. There has been plenty of time for all these guests to handle everything else that was coming along. They should have had their affairs in order so they could attend. And so because there's all this food, the place is decorated, the band is warming up. The master of the house says, hey, go out, go throughout the town, invite anybody that you can find to come. They're nearby, they're the neighbors. They didn't get an invitation because I don't know why, but now invite them to come. Maybe they didn't been invited earlier and said no. This is some extra chance, I suppose, to say yes. And so they go out and they share the information and people show up, but there's still room. So he says, now, we got to fill this place up. I want you to go farther. Don't just stay in the city limits. I want you to go out to the boonies. I want you to go find anybody you can. Invite them and have them come in to the banquet with you. And compel them. You're not going to force them under gunpoint to come. You're not twisting their arm, but you just need to let them know how very important and how very amazing and incredible this banquet's going to be, so they just cannot refuse. Get them to come. And so the house gets filled up. So if you're making the application of the different guests, those who have the invitation already would be all those who Jewish leaders, the Pharisees, all those very incredibly devout and righteous people who have heard that the time of the kingdom is coming and that they should be ready. But they're so involved in everything else, especially materialism, that they miss it. So, so God says, well, we're not just gonna let in all those incredibly righteous people. I want you to go right here nearby and invite all the neighbors to come. So that would be like anybody else who is Jewish, all the people from the nation. Bring all them in. And when all those that come in, all those who are going to come, do come, there's still room. And God says, one more time, I want you to go out as far as you can. So now it's not just for the Jews, but it's those who are far away. It's for the Gentiles as well. There's room at the banquet in the kingdom for everyone. But you have to choose to come. You cannot ignore or reject the invitation, because if you do, there are serious consequences. You will not enter the kingdom unless you answer the invitation. What do you think? Never made that connection, applying it to Jews and Gentiles.
Yeah, to the invitation of salvation. But I'm writing it down.
Okay.
That's why you study.
That is why we started to learn stuff.
It seems the parable there is in direct response to what the silver-tongued guy said in 15, isn't it better to eat bread of the kingdom of God? Well, this is how that happens. This is how you get there. And it's I don't know if it's intended as a rebuke to that person or not, but it's the direct answer.
Yeah, it is kind of hard to tell if he's kind of putting the smack down on him or if he's just further expanding the truth for everybody. I guess probably I've typically seen it as more of a rebuke, but it is possible it's just, yeah, let's run with that for a minute. It is good to be a part of the kingdom, but you have to come. You have to accept the invitation. You don't automatically just have a seat because you're around. You have to be invited. You have to accept that invitation. Anybody think anything else? Anything else grab you about that particular parable?
I feel bad for the guys that didn't, the people that didn't accept an invitation. You know, because there's been several places that I've been invited to that I didn't want to go. And I turn them down, I make excuses all the time. You know, so you just. I understand the parable, the part about that and stuff, but. You know,
You don't want to miss out.
not on that, no.
Yeah. One of the things that is in our vocabulary at our house is FOMO. Do you know FOMO? Anybody know FOMO? Yeah, fear of missing out.
Fear of missing out.
People do all kinds of stuff just because they're afraid that if they don't go, they're gonna miss something.
Yeah.
I know that Cole and his friends will never watch this, which makes me sad. But so this last winter, they went up to Big Sky, he and his best buddy, to work at the resort. Everything was all taken care of, room was picked out, everything, just the two of them. And then like 3 months later, another friend in the circle said, well, I want to come too. He's not as much of a snowboarder as the first two, and was already enrolled in school and already had a job. And his parents, I'm not sure, really thought that he should go, but he convinced himself he really needed to be there. And I think it's that fear of missing out. Well, you guys are gonna have fun without me. I don't want you to have any fun without me. It's gonna be awesome, right? I don't wanna miss that. So, anyway, there you go. Well, let's roll on then. Verse 25. Large crowds were traveling with Jesus. And turning to them, he said, if anyone comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even their own life, such a person cannot be my disciple. And whoever does not carry their cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? For if you lay the foundation and are not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule you, saying, this person began to build and wasn't able to finish. Or suppose a king is about to go to war with another king. Won't he first sit down and consider whether it is able with 10,000 men to oppose the one coming against him with 20,000? If he's not able, he will send a delegation while the other is still a long way off and will ask for terms of peace. In the same way, those of you who do not give up everything you have cannot be my disciples. Salt is good, but if it loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is fit neither for the soil nor for the manure pile. It is thrown out. Whoever has ears to hear, let them hear. Well, those are some fun verses, huh? Anybody have a little twinge of something when they read those words? This does not seem like a low, easy softball. This seems like about 180-mile-an-hour pitch right at your head. So,
Hate must mean something different to them than it does to us. We interpret it different or something. Because I can't imagine anyone hating their mother and father, their children.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think we probably all have moments when it's like, are you serious? I'm not even sure you're mine.
Yeah, but hate, that's a pretty strong word.
That is a pretty strong word. And I think that it means exactly what it means. That hate is hate. However, there are other places where Jesus says that he goes along with Moses's command. Honor your father and mother, that may go well with you in the land. He talks about that in Mark chapter, what is it? Mark chapter 7. We should probably just read that because it's right there. Mark 7, verse 9. Jesus is talking to those Pharisees again. You have a fine way of setting aside the commands of God in order to observe your own traditions. For Moses said, honor your father and mother, and anyone who curses their father or mother is to be put to death. Oh, speaking of, I have to answer this call. Yes, mother. No, that changed. So you can either come to the church or you can go to the house, our house. Whatever I am teaching Bible study right now. And the verse was honor your father and mother, so I had to take the call. Yes. in about half an hour. Okay, well, I'll see you in a bit then. Okay, goodbye. Just like we planned it. Yeah, Luke, no, Mark. Anyone who curses their father or mother is to be put to death. But you say that if anyone declares that what might have been used to help their father or mother is korban, which means devoted to God, then you no longer let them do anything for their father or mother. Thus, you nullify the word of God by your tradition that you have handed down, and you do many things like that. So Jesus says, you can't just say, well, everything that I have belongs to God, and so I cannot help my mom and dad. I don't have any money left because it's all dedicated to God's ministry. You have parents that require your care. You must honor them. You must respect them. You should take care of them. So clearly, if Jesus here says you must honor your parents, you have to take care of them. It's really hard for us to hear him say, hate your father and mother, and go, well, he means exactly that. I don't believe that this is a command to hate anyone, because that just doesn't make any sense. It's not an absolute. You must hate your parents, your wife, your children, your siblings, all of these family members that you are tasked to care for and to love. I can't command you to hate them. That doesn't make any sense. But what the rest of the passage is talking about is understanding what it will take to be a real disciple of Jesus. So I think that's kind of the lens that we have to look through. I believe that what Jesus is asking for his followers to do is to be so devoted to him, to be so dedicated, so committed, so closely following him that in comparison to the love that we have for him, that everything else looks like hate. You don't actually hate them, but loving him so much, it would seem like how could you possibly have anything left for anybody else? I mean, obviously we do, because loving God means to love others, but we're so committed, we're so devoted, we're so sold out that it would seem like we must not love our families. This is so white hot and blindingly bright that this just kind of pales in comparison. Again, this whole passage is about what we call counting the cost of discipleship. Because in Jesus's time, we've seen it before, like back in John 6. There are a lot of people who said, man, Jesus is awesome. He is such a great teacher. He makes such amazing fish sandwiches here by the lake. He does all these incredible miracles. He's just the best. I love being around Jesus. But being a disciple doesn't mean you're a fan. It means that you are a dedicated, devoted follower. To be a part of the kingdom isn't just about some kind of like theoretical ideal where it's like it only lives in your brain. Like we may do that in other areas. Like in my mind, I am as fit as a fiddle and strong as an ox. I do go to the gym, but the reality of my gym is not the image that I have in my head. I think it's a great idea. It's the execution of it is where I have the issue. New Year's resolutions, oh yeah, I'm gonna get fit, I'm gonna be healthy, I'm gonna drop this, I'm gonna pick up that, it's all gonna be great, and that's good for about 1.5 days. It's the execution of it, which it's reality. That's the real kicker. And I believe that's what Jesus is pointing to here as well. This is not just theory. This is absolute practical reality. The thing that I didn't pay much attention to until the last few years is verse 27. Whoever does not carry their cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. When is he saying this? He's not teaching this after the crucifixion. This
Before he
is-
carried his own cross.
This is at least days, if not weeks, maybe even a few months before anybody is ever going to see him on a cross. So this is like really intense language here. I mean, he has predicted his death, that he's going to go to Jerusalem. He's going to be delivered into the hands of the teachers of the law and the Pharisees, and they're going to abuse him and torture him. He's going to be executed and raised on the third day. But this is really specific. Anyone who does not carry their cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. They would have understood what a cross was all about. People don't come back from the cross. It is the last stop. It is death. Period. Anyone who does not follow me all the way to death cannot be my disciple. None of this picking it up, laying it down, picking it up, laying it down. I'll come back around to it when my life is less busy, when I've got some more mental energy, more spiritual energy to handle this. I just can't right now. That's not being a disciple. Unless you're in all the way to death, you cannot be a follower of Jesus. It is more than just an idea. It's not just a philosophy. It's not just a way to view the world. It is hard hoeing every single day. And so what's the next piece there? Well, he gives some illustrations. The first one is about building a tower. You want to build a tower, estimate the cost. Because if you get started and you can't finish, then everybody goes, idiot. Fool. In about 1975 or so, maybe 1976. My parents and my siblings lived in a little white house out in the middle of a massive cornfield down a long lane, and it had no insulation in it. It had like 3 bedrooms and 1 bath. It was not a lot. But my parents understood that they were not done yet having children. And so they started an addition onto the house. Before it was just when you got to the end of the kitchen, you went outside, that was the back step. That way is the barn and the cattle lot. But they built a 2-bay garage with a nice big thing in the middle that was going to be some more living space and closets and things like that. It's going to be really, really nice. That was in like 1975 or so, could have been 76. When we left there in 1986, 84, 1984, the last time, that addition was still called the new part, and it was still plywood and framing. There were shingles on the roof, but there was no siding on the outside. There was no carpet, there was no plumbing, there was no electric, there was no nothing. And it was because, whoops, we ran out of money. I think that was probably a major embarrassment to my parents for as long as we lived there, and may have been one of the reasons why they decided we needed to move, just to get away from that thing going, hey, you didn't finish. You didn't think about it. You didn't finish. You didn't finish. So when I read Luke 14, it's not a tower, it's the new part, which 15 years later was still the new part, an unfinished deal. The other illustration is about war. King is going to go off to war, and instead of just running up there with what he's got and finding out he's outmatched, he does a little reconnaissance ahead of time, figures out what he's got, how much money is in the defense budget, if they're really ready to go to war, and realizes, nope, not even close. We cannot fight this and win. So what do we need to do to make peace with the enemy? Just being very intentional. And again, this goes back, it's not about building an addition or going to war. It really is about the cost of what it means to follow Jesus. Being a disciple requires a conscious, intentional, advanced commitment. Okay. So Jesus, what's this gonna mean? You gotta follow me all the way to death. You gotta be all the way in. You're not a half disciple, you're not a part-time disciple, you're all the way in or you're all the way out. Okay, well, I want to be all the way in. I've made my decision. I'm following no matter what. So be just be aware that following Jesus is not some sort of easy thing. It is not a stroll on a flat paved highway around a park in the shade. That's not what it's about. It is difficult. It is rocky, it is bumpy, it is twisting and winding, and sometimes it's really cold and sometimes it's really hot, and there is no shade, or there might not be any water or food for a while, but you still got to keep on the track. Then he gets to where did it go? Verse 33. In the same way, those of you who do not give up everything you have cannot be my disciples. Okay, again, we're looking at that statement in light of what he has said already about counting the cost. I just bought 5 oxen. I just bought some property. You're letting stuff get in the way. You cannot follow Jesus if you are constantly looking back, worrying about stuff. You cannot worry about wealth. You cannot worry about possessions. They cannot be your first priority. Jesus has to be the first priority. And so Jesus says, give up everything. Now, one commentator looks at those words and sees it not necessarily as a command to dispose of all your possessions, but to do away with your right to ownership of possessions, which is different. The first one says, this is my stuff and it's really important to me. I have to take care of it so I can use it for me. The second position is, this is not my stuff. It's been given to me and I should take good care of it because it's been given to me and I'm supposed to use it for others. The right perspective on those possessions is that we're just managers. We're just stewards of the stuff that we own. We need to give up the idea that those things really belong to us. No, it's not my truck, it's God's truck. It's not my house, it's God's house. It's not my money, it's God's money, and He is trusting me to use His things for Him and for the benefit of others. It seems like the point that Jesus is making is that a true disciple has that sort of spirit, the spirit of, somebody called it abandonment. Like, this is stuff, but I'm not going to let it keep me from doing what is most important, which is to follow Jesus. A real disciple has the willingness to just part with those kinds of things, to not be controlled by them anymore. Because we really, he says it elsewhere, we can either love God or we can love possessions, stuff, money. There's not room in your heart for both. Now, let the crickets ensue. What do you
To
think?
me, 33 kind of relates back to 26, because going the way of Christ, your parents may not think that's a great idea, or your brother and sister, and you're still bound to say, that's too bad. I feel bad about you not, your attitude, but I still have to do this.
I suppose you gotta apply that abandonment thing. Like, you are still my brother and sister, you are still my parents. However, this commitment that I'm making is so much more important. It is eternally important. And this would put us at odds with probably a lot of our neighbors. Families are not forever. Families are for here. But Jesus is forever. Heaven is forever. We're going to know our families in heaven. Gosh, I hope they're all there. And I expect that I will recognize them. But Stacy and I are not living in a house together for all eternity. We're just not. But I will live in the presence of Jesus forever. It's not that Stacy and my kids don't matter, because they really do matter a lot. God has given them to me to protect and to love and to care for and to nurture and all those things. But my relationship with Him exceeds that. And if you asked her, she would say the same thing. AJ, maybe not.
He will though.
He says he believes it, but
Hmm?
he says he believes that's true, but he's 12. It's pretty hard to put that into reality. Already.
It's hard for adults to put something out into. Yeah, it's pretty much.
Salt is good, but if it loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It's not fit for the soil or the manure pile. Throw it out. Okay, the salt illustration is here to focus the hearers on having a consistent quality of life, which really aims back at a lot of the things we've already talked about today and last time. Be genuine, be consistent, do not lose trade, neglect, whatever, you're following Jesus. Don't put it aside. Don't come back to it later. If you are salt, if you are a follower of Jesus, you need to be that and not let anything else get in the way. Now, I've heard a bunch of different preachers talk about this idea in the last how many years, 40 or 50 years. And some of them really want to make lots of points about the chemical makeup of salt, and can salt actually lose its saline flavor? Salt's really valuable and all this kind of stuff. The point, I think, is a lot simpler than that. You just need to maintain this consistent devotion to Jesus. Can salt lose its saltiness? Salt is rocks that have been around for a really, really long time. And if you lick that rock now, or if you lick that rock 1,000 years ago, it's going to taste like salt. There's the thing that would make the difference in the flavor of the salt would be all the other stuff, all the things that come in and contaminate it. Like if I take a tablespoon of salt, just straight salt, and put it on my tongue, that's gonna tingle a little bit. But if I take that same tablespoon of salt and I mix it in with anything else,
Cookies.
sure, cookies or potato or sawdust or dirt. I mean, one tablespoon of salt and a pound of dirt is not going to taste very salty because it's been contaminated. So make sure that you don't get contaminated. Don't get drawn away. Don't try to add extra things in. You stay true to Jesus. You stay a consistent follower. You've counted the cost. You've made the purchase. You've begun the project. Don't throw it away for something else. Don't lose sight of the goal. Take up your cross and follow all the way to the very end. Big thoughts, concerns, wonderful ideas, rebuttal. Yeah. You guys have got an amazing Bible teacher, apparently. Nail it every time.
Well, we do.
Okay, well, we're gonna do one more little piece and then we'll put a pause in there. So we've been in Luke for a while. Now we're gonna jump over to Matthew for just a minute. Because the next thing in Luke is Luke 15, which is 3 parables that Jesus tells. But he uses one of the same parables in a little bit different spot in Matthew 18, starting in verse 10. Matthew 18:10. Which is probably about where we left off with Matthew, however long ago that was. Jesus says in Matthew 18:10, see that you do not despise one of these little ones, for I tell you that their angels in heaven always see the face of my Father in heaven. What do you think? If a man owns 100 sheep and one of them wanders away, will he not leave the 99 on the hills and go look for the one that wandered off? And if he finds it, truly I tell you, he is happier about that one sheep than about the 99 that did not wander off. In the same way, your Father in heaven is not willing that any of these little ones should perish. the last time we were looking at Matthew. And Jesus was referring to the little ones. It was not just tiny humans, not just little kids. These little ones is a broader idea that anybody who is outside of the kingdom, anybody who is poor, crippled, blind, lame, the same group that he's been talking about, that those people who are outside, those are the little ones. And he wants to make sure that as many of them as can are gathered up and brought to God. Here in Matthew 18, Jesus emphasizes that the Father doesn't want any of the little ones, anybody really, to be lost. He wants those who are far from himself to be near, so he will go seek them out. He will go looking for them. Any of those who are outside and deemed as insignificant or unimportant by the religious muckety mucks, those are the very people that Jesus came to find. Now, we won't do it today, but next time we're together, when we look at Luke 15, we'll talk some more about the relationship between the 99 and the one in the Father's eyes, or the 100 sheep in Luke, or the 10 coins in Luke, or the 2 sons. How they are all viewed. So if you would like to ask me about angels in heaven, what does that mean? My answer is clearly, I don't know. Do we have guardian angels? Maybe. It seems like that's kind of what he's pointing to here, that all the little ones have angels in heaven that are always in the presence of the Father. Does that mean they protect us from stuff? There's some churches that definitely teach that. If I do have a guardian angel, his name is Murphy.
Murphy.
Yeah.
Get Murphy, yeah.
Because everything that can go wrong does.
Oh,
Apparently he's like a second tier guardian angel.
I wonder.
A lot more like Clarence.
We're talking in that passage, we're talking about little kids. It's just people that are away. If you think that. Cause I hear little kids say some pretty profound things once in a while, that it, it's like, how do you know that? And the only thing I can think is that they're still a little closer to God in heaven than.
Yeah.
Cause I've heard little kids just say some like, wow,
They're not so jaded and hurt, and they don't have all that baggage.
Yeah.
Makes a difference. Okay, so somebody might make a mark. Luke 15, verse 1. Next time. I'll let you all know, I will be leaving after church on Sunday to go to Montana. Cole's his winter job is done, so I'm gonna go up and help him bring his stuff back. So I won't be in the office probably again until Wednesday next week.
Didn't he take his car?
He did, but it's a little Subaru, a little hatchback, and there's not a lot of room. We'll see. My mom is probably pulling in the parking lot in the next 5 minutes. She's gonna go up with me because she's not been to Montana.
It's in here. Yeah.
Get to see Cole and Big Sky.
Every time I see, this is done, every time I see those brackets, it goes to that.